Hi, I'm Dara Dietz, and today we want to spend some time talking about the kidneys, the feeding and care of kidneys. I'll start with a little of my testimony on kidneys. Due to neglect and abuse issues, the infections have been allowed just to be there and never been taken care of at all. Bactrim that they prescribed, the side effects from that, one of them was incontinency. And early on, by my mid-20s, I was already having incontinency issues. So the degrading of my body from the infection work, as well as just having allowed the kidneys to go untreated and for the infection just to continue to be there for probably 6 or 7 years before I was given my first bout of antibiotics for any infection in my kidneys. So when I came into natural healing, one of the first things that I was looking for was some answers, something to get me off this infection merry-go-round. And I discovered that there are herbs, God has given us the tools that we need to clear infections from our body, to actually get rid of them. It's not suppression therapy, it's actually clearing the infections. So what I first discovered, a very kind woman, she suggested I use this regimen of herbal capsules. It was golden seal, 3 capsules of golden seal, dandelion, juniper berry, 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and 3 capsules of garlic. And that was the regimen, every 3 hours to take that regimen of capsules. And I was willing to try anything at that point, just not to end up at the hospital. And believe it or not, it worked. In a day or so, all the symptoms had cleared, and I could see the infection going away. The pain was all but gone, and I could see the infection clearing from my body. I stayed on the regimen for about a week or so. And so then the next time that my bladder started heating up, and it was only a month or 2 down the road, I went and got some more capsules and did it again. And I just kept those capsules on hand, and anytime my bladder began to heat up, I would just start using that regimen, and it kept the infections away, but they were still reoccurring. It was just clearing them up as they came. I was not getting on top or getting rid of them. A couple years later, I was introduced by a friend to Dr. Schultz, and I saw his videos. And on his videos, he showed and explained about herbal extracts. So the first thing I did when I came back from her clinic was put together an infection formula. I chose to use garlic, dandelion, golden seal, ginger, horseradish, and cayenne. The garlic and dandelion and golden seal are all about clearing infection from the body. Garlic is complete infection everywhere. It just goes through and wipes it out. Golden seal is a natural antibiotic that will help aid in clearing infection. Dandelion is the king of blood cleansers. It's excellent for any infection formula. And then for circulation, cayenne, ginger, and horseradish. Cayenne moves blood from the heart to the extremities. Ginger moves blood from the extremities back to the heart, so you're getting a full circulation there, a flushing of the capillaries and all that with the ginger, bringing the blood back up to the heart. And then horseradish moves blood to the head. As you all know, anyone who has eaten a horseradish knows that your sinuses are definitely affected. So that is providing a circulatory aid as well as an infection fighting aid. And I put these together And then I would have my vitamin C on the side, and began using the herbal extract, and my infection time got further and further apart. Well, since the beginning of back in the 90s, when I first started using the infection protocols, I've discovered that staying on the infection formulas for extended periods of time will go deeper and clear the infection completely out of the body, so that it doesn't come back. What I did with my work in the beginning was I just did symptom work. When the infection would show up, when I would start heating up and getting uncomfortable, then I would do the regimen. Since then, I have discovered that you can just stay on the regimen for 3, 6, 9 months, whatever, depending on how intense the infection work is that you need to do. That's the infection merry-go-round that I was on for over 10 years. I have met several women over the years who have had similar stories, and through them have seen the long-term use of the infection formulas completely clear it to where they are no longer having infections at all. For me, it took 4 or 5 years before I stopped having any infections. For them, it was a year or so, 9 months, a year, and their bodies had completely cleared all that waste so that they no longer had infections that would come up. That is my testimony on the bladder infections. Of course, the bladder infections traveled on up, and my kidneys were inflamed and infected when I was 17, 16, 17, somewhere back there. I had a horrible kidney infection. It was the first time I'd ever been given antibiotics or anything for the kidney infection. It had been hurting me for ages. I had been sleeping on hot water bottles and heating pads, anything to ease the discomfort in my back. And of course, I was then started on rounds of antibiotics, which did alleviate the pain and clear it up. I mean, if that's all you know, it will keep you alive and help with symptoms. I do not regret anything that they did to support me back then. I just now know that there are things that work better. All right, now let's talk about kidney infections. There were, all the years that I dealt with it, a kidney infection, it just makes your back really tight, and there were days that I couldn't even stand up straight. It hurt so bad. But for me, in my younger days, I had to figure out what it was. Whether my back had been broken in a car accident in '85. My husband decided to rear end a Nova, and I didn't have my seatbelt on. It's kind of stupid. And my head went into the windshield, and I got a compression break in my lower spine. It did not sever the spine, but it caused me horrible back spasms and issues in my back. And then being female and having all the menstrual issues that I had, once a month I would have horrible cramping. And then on top of that, I would have kidney spasms. When the kidneys would become inflamed, my back would also ache. So for me, it was a matter of trying to figure out what it was, and if it was a kidney infection, if my back was getting spasm because I had overused it, it needed some support, or if it was the female cycle coming around and I was getting crampy from that. So I learned a few ways to be able to rule out or rule in a kidney infection. So let's say, and this happened to me more than once, during the day I could ignore the ache in my back. It could be aching, but I could be walking around. Unless it was extremely inflamed, I could pretty much ignore it until bed, but then I would go to bed at night and lay there, and my back would just ache and spasm so bad. It's just like you want to crawl out of your body and crawl into someone else's. It just hurt. And that was when I would kind of get the wake up, and it was just like, oh yeah, there's a kidney infection, or is it my back spasming, or what? And So I found that there were 3 drinks that I could do that would rule out or rule in a kidney infection. And it would have the pain gone and my back would be comfortable in about 45 minutes. What it was I would drink 1 ounce of echinacea tincture mixed in a big mug of hot water. And this is my weight loss in my brain formula right now mixed in here. I've mixed the 2. But I would use a mug about this size because the fluid matters. So I would put 1 ounce of echinacea in here and then pour the boiling water on top of it. That was my first drink. My second drink was a tablespoon of herbal antibiotic. The infection formula that I had developed, I would do a whole tablespoon of that. A normal dose is a teaspoon. And I would add that to a mug about the same size. And if it's feasible, go ahead and add some honey or maple syrup or something. It has a bit of a bite. But I would then drink that. The third drink was what we call hot lemonade. That was a cold drink. It's hot lemonade because it's got cayenne in it. But that was a cold drink. And I do have a video on hot lemonade that you can go check out where I talk about it because it's also what we use to begin to learn to use cayenne. But it has lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, a teaspoon of cayenne, and a tablespoon of maple syrup or honey. The maple syrup mixes better in the cold drinks than honey does. But if all you have is honey, use your honey. And I would mix that together, and that would be my third drink. And that was usually a large 16 32 ounces. And so all in all, it was quite a bit of fluid going down. It would take about 45 minutes, and as this would be flushing through my kidneys would just calm down, and the pain in my back would go away. And all I had to do, I'd usually sit up for about a half hour, 45 minutes, and then my whole back would just begin to relax. And if it was a kidney infection now, if my back did not relax, if it did not clear up the symptoms, then I could be thinking, well, I'm having a back spasm, or it's that time of the month coming on. But for the kidney issues, it would just relax the spasm in the kidneys. They would calm down, and I would feel very much better, improved, go back to bed, go to sleep, and then the next morning it's time to start on the infection protocol to clear the infection that is in my kidneys, most likely. And that is what I would do for my kidney infections over the years. I haven't needed to do that in probably close to 10 years now. It's been quite a while since my kidneys have become inflamed or given me problems. Not to say that they don't get a little sore every once in a while. I feel that, and just making sure I keep enough fluid going down. That tends to be what would make them talk to me a little bit, is just not getting enough fluid. Dr. Christopher provides a simple but complete understanding of kidney function. The duties of the kidney are best described by calling them the filters of blood. Your blood flows constantly through your kidneys to be purified or filtered. You might be surprised to learn that more than 500 grains of waste matter, acids, and poisons have to be moved from the blood through the kidneys every 24 hours. You can easily see, therefore, that on this filtering and eliminating depends your health to a very great extent. Let the kidneys fail to function properly, and nature will call your attention to it right away. You will feel depressed and tired, restless at night, and pains in the back will show up. There might be scanty urine or a desire to urinate frequently. Your head will ache, and many other aches and pains will be making their appearance. You really cannot be surprised that you do not feel well. Just figure your kidneys would only do half the work and eliminate only 250 grains of waste. What will become of the other 250 grains? They will be carried back into your blood and poison your system. Watch, therefore, your kidneys and deal with even minor irregularities promptly. To avoid trouble, be careful with your diet. Americans consume daily 80 grams of meat or nearly 3 ounces more of protein, thus attempting to dispose of 35 grains more than we have capacity for. This overload gradually smashes the kidneys and throws them out of commission. Our kidneys cannot talk. They just have to stay mum until 101 bodily disorders starts us looking around for some mysterious cause of serious trouble. Then, as a rule, it is too late to apologize to the kidneys. Okay, so how do we rebuild the kidneys? What do we do to restore health and build them back up when they're not functioning like they need to be? And the other question is, what do we do for kidney stones? A concentrated version of the kidney flushing protocol has been an excellent aid for clearing kidney stones, dissolving them and getting them out of the kidneys. It's a 24-hour, takes 24 hours to get the fluids ready to drink, and then you're drinking them for 2 days. The instructions for doing the stone dissolve routine are on the last couple pages of the kidney flushing ebook. And you use the same items for the stone dissolve that you do for the regular kidney flush. It's just they're used in a more concentrated method. So the work is you're concentrating these herbs and these nutrients on the kidneys, and they go through and they just continue to flush through and dissolve the gravel and the pus and all that right out of the kidneys. So it's a really intense kidney flush, but it has the stone dissolving capacity, the ability to actually get the stones gone. And yes, I have past kidney stones. It is extremely painful, and this really does work. For those who make stones and really don't want to continue passing them or having them, I suggest that you do a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar once or twice a day for the rest of your life on a daily basis. This is going to keep the filters cleared, keep the gravel cleared from your kidneys, and just help rejuvenate and restore. It also strengthens your hydrochloric bath, which is wonderful. So taking your drink of apple cider vinegar about 15-20 minutes before a meal is an excellent idea. It's used with the hot lemonade, adding it a tablespoon to your hot lemonade. So taking that a couple times a day on a regular basis would probably not hurt at all. If you make stones, if kidney stones are an issue for you, getting used to and getting that into your daily regimen would probably be a really good idea. Just using apple cider vinegar on a regular basis, a tablespoon once or twice a day, would be an excellent aid for keeping them from reforming and coming back once you get them cleared. The kidney flushing week, the kidney flushing program is a 5-day program. Normally, it's part of the Incurables program, but can be done independently just for rebuilding and supporting the kidneys. Though I would suggest doing an ELF, a liver flush, once every couple weeks or something, just to clear the liver, because you are creating some die-off, and the liver being the vacuum cleaner of the body, it's going to be pulling waste. So you don't want to get the liver overwhelmed by just doing kidney work and never flushing the liver through. So that said, the kidney flushing is not a big detoxing program. It's more of a restorative rebuilding program for the renal system, which includes your kidneys. It's a 5-day program, and I would suggest eating raw. You might want to juice fast 1 week, somewhere in there, just for the heck of it, because juice fasting is so rejuvenating and really, gets the body. it's just a nice thing to do for yourself every once in a while. It's just a week-long juice fast. But overall, with the kidney flushing protocol, if you're going to be doing that, you can eat raw. And that would mean, your raw fruits or your raw vegetable salads. Throughout the day, you can eat raw. You will be using juices as part of your food program also. But you can have your raw salads and your raw food. So you can eat something. You don't have to juice fast to do this program. And it consists of doing your kidney flush, the actual kidney flush protocol 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. So if you're doing a kidney flushing work, you would take, what the kidney flush actually is you're going to drink a glass of your hot lemonade. It's the juice of 1 lemon, the juice of 1 lime, your apple cider vinegar. I like to throw that in there with it. And honey or maple syrup to sweeten it, and then a teaspoon of cayenne. And that is the actual flush drink. That goes through and it's just going to stir up and just, I think about it like Ajax. You've got a really dirty bathtub, you take and get it wet and then just sprinkle Ajax on it and just let that sit there for a few minutes so it can get in and soften everything up. Then you're going to come along with your kidney bladder teas, the dry tea, and then the kidney bladder formula, which is a mix of herbs that support and restore the kidneys. So this is food for the kidneys. And the kidney bladder formula, it has all the herbs in it that take and rebuild and restore kidney function and renal function. So it's an excellent aid. It's just food to support the kidneys and to rebuild them. So drinking the tea, using the kidney bladder tea, which is a dry tea, and the directions for putting the tea and the herbs together are in the kidney flushing ebook. But you would follow about a half hour or so, 45 minutes after you drink your hot lemonade. You would then drink 2 cups of the kidney bladder tea mixed with a half a teaspoon, or if you're going to put the 2 cups together, a full teaspoon of the kidney bladder formula in your big mug. So a big mug like this filled up with the kidney bladder tea, and then just put a teaspoon of the kidney bladder formula right into it. And that will flush through the hot lemonade and just clear that through and get that flush through your kidneys so that you will get the waste out. My personal testimony, the first time I did kidney flushes, this was back in 96, 97. It's been a while back. The first time I did one, I did the hot lemonade, and then came along, and about a half hour afterwards I drank my teas. My back just tightened up. It was just like everything just cinched up back there. My kidneys just went into spasm and they got so tight and sore, and then I had to urinate. And when I did, and I stood up and looked around to flush the toilet, there was like chalk settling to the bottom of the toilet. And this happened, I mean, it was just this white powdery stuff that was settling down. And that was just with a normal kidney flush. That wasn't even doing stone dissolve work. But I know my kidneys were just in really, really bad shape. It was probably full of gravel by then. But it was obviously the softer stones, the softer gravel that just came through. And that first week of kidney flushing, I got out just tons of that white powder. Every time I would do the kidney flush, my back would seize up and my kidneys would just get really, really spastic. And then when I urinated, there was just this white chalky stuff that came out of me. And it was interesting. And that was excellent as far as clearing that kind of waste from my kidneys. I have not ever had that happen again after the first week of kidney flushing, and I continued kidney flushing and liver flushing for several months after that first one, and it was just the first time that I ended up with that kind of effect. But that pretty much convinced me that it was definitely going to do some work on my kidneys, and it has. They've basically restored. I don't have the kidney issues I had before. I would have periods where I just wasn't outputting urine, very scant, if anything. They just wouldn't function. And doing my 3 drinks would, when my kidneys decided that they didn't want to produce urine, the echinacea herbal antibiotic and then hot lemonade would usually just bring them right back and just satisfy them to where they would start functioning again. Another herb that is really, really good for increasing the kidney's function of pulling waste from the blood is burdock root. Burdock root is an excellent aid. It will greatly increase your urine output, so if you're going to use it by itself, definitely make sure you're drinking enough fluid. But when I've used that, my urine would become really, really dark and heavy, and there was lots of it. So it's a 1 time a day dose. You would take a rounded teaspoon of the burdock root and just put it in the bottom of your mug and pour boiling water over it, and just let it sit there with a saucer over it to keep the heat in. So to wrap this up, and let's just summarize it. If you are having kidney issues, you really need to think very hard about going on a vegetarian vegan food program. The animal proteins have always been very, very hard on my kidneys. They are not something that I can just eat. My kidneys do not appreciate animal proteins. Getting your proteins from your beans, your nuts, your seeds, the natural ones, they do not put so much stress on the kidneys. So if you've got really bad kidney issues, you might want to think very seriously about a vegetarian vegan food program. For rebuilding and supporting the kidneys, the herbs that God has given us for this purpose do work beautifully. It's a matter of work. It's not going to happen overnight. It didn't take overnight for your kidneys to break down, and the healing is going to take time as your body needs to rebuild and heal and restore itself. So I wish you well, and if you have any further questions on this, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I will read those and work to respond. Also, there is more information at my blog, daradietz.me. And if you like this video, please do check the like mark and subscribe.